Do you need better boundaries with your family? Let's talk. Hey friend, welcome back to another Mind Right Monday. I'm your host, Bonnie Kelly, your emotional intelligence speaker, author, and coach, here to help you end the cycle of self-sabotage. So today we are talking about boundaries, which is one of my favorite topics. If you haven't tuned in to us before, you need to check out some of our other boundary videos. All the links are below. But today we're specifically talking about boundaries with family. Because I can say that the one area of our life that we lack boundaries the most is with our family dynamics. A lot of us will allow our mothers or fathers or siblings to just walk all over us, which causes a lot of emotional despair. So today we're going to talk about 3 ways that you can begin to set better boundaries with your family members. But before we do, let's dive right into a quote by Brene Brown to kickstart this session, where she said, "Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others." Now, I wanted to start this section off before we dove into my tips with this because it's so important to recognize that once you learn to start setting boundaries, well, that means that you might be creating waves in your family dynamic. They might be necessary waves, but they're going to be waves nonetheless. And when we begin to rock the boat, a lot of times we can get controversy. We can disappoint people, and they might be used to connecting and treating us in a certain way that now we've decided to change or that doesn't serve us anymore. And you should do it anyways, with love and grace. All right, so I just want to make sure to put that little nugget in there before we get started, but let's dive right into my first tip, which is know what your boundaries are. All right, so typically when we set boundaries, it's usually when it's too late. Somebody has already crossed the threshold. We can't take it anymore. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just if they ask me one more time, and guess what? We will assert very emotional, very assertive, very commanding boundaries that don't always get us the results that we want and usually can cause more damage in the relationship. We want to get very clear with where we need to assert boundaries and start to assert them before we get to that point. We want to start asking for what we need before we reach our limits, before they push us over the edge, before they break the straw that breaks the camel's back. We really want to clearly have the foresight to start to say, all right, what in my family dynamic doesn't feel right, doesn't suit me right? What behaviors, what actions, what words, what is being said or discussed that really just it hurts or it gets under my skin or it's not in alignment with me or it's an off-limit topic for me. You want to take a piece of paper, this is where it starts, and write those out. Write where they're getting crossed and then take it a step further and ask yourself why. Why haven't you said something before? What's the fear? What's the fear that surrounds you advocating or speaking up? Are you afraid of disappointing them? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you afraid of not being included? Are you being afraid of made fun of? What is the fear that is surrounding this? Without recognizing that, we might not ever be able to step into the courage. We have to recognize that there is fear that'll be around confronting our families and our family dynamics, and that's okay. So once we get clear on this, well, now we have room to start to make changes, to start formulating a way to ask for what we need to have the most success. But if you're not clear, and again, that clarity should be unjudgmental. You need to take out the you shouldn't do's and the you should know betters out of that clear request. You want to make sure to just clearly call out what it is that you want and why it's important to you. Why does it hurt you? Why does it bother you? Why is it off limits for you? This is about you, not about them. You want to get out of the judgment of where they're wrong and they should be different and get into just clearly asking for what you desire from a place of love and grace. Okay? Let me end this section off by a quote, which is, "Boundaries are, in simple terms, the recognition of personal space." Now, we know that in physical, but I think we forget that in the emotional and mental space, is that you know what, there's some conversations that don't feel good or that are off limits for me, and they should be for you too. There's certain things that you just don't want to discuss or don't want to hear about that disrupt your happy bubble. And we want to be able to create the space for you to feel better and feel safe in all of your engagements moving forward. All right, so this leads me to my next tip, which is communicate the boundaries with kindness. All right, so this is going to be a little bit a harder one because, again, most of the time when we're asserting boundaries, it's because we are upset, we are hurt, we feel belittled, betrayed. Well, the truth is you need to process that emotion before you ever assert that boundary. Otherwise, it's only going to become about that emotion. When you go into a conversation emotionally charged, guess what? You put the other person on defense and typically aren't going to get you the results you desire. So what we need to do is we need to get ourselves into a clear emotional space so we can then kindly ask the other person for whatever it is that we're requesting. And yes, I said ask the other person, not command it, not tell them what to do, but to lovingly remove the judgments of who they should be and how they should behave, and clearly start to say, hey, I know that, this isn't how we've done it before, but this is really important to me. Would you be willing to honor me here? Is that we ask our family members to honor our space, to honor our ideas. And yes, sometimes they're going to laugh at you. Sometimes they're going to make fun of you. Sometimes they're going to say that's stupid or no or whatever it is. That's okay. Don't get hooked into the emotional drama of it. You just go back to that kindness. I understand it's different for you, or I understand that you don't agree with this, but it is important for me. Would you be willing to honor me here? It is important. Please. I'm asking. So we can continue to loop back to that kind place. Now, I always say that there's a three-strike policy when asserting boundaries. That if I have to ask the boundary more than once, each time it's going to become a little more assertive. And with each assertiveness, there might be a consequence attached to it. Maybe you're going to walk out of the room if there's if that conversation emerges, or you're just not going to engage, or you're going to kindly say, I'm going to get off the phone now. Whatever it is, that you can become more and more assertive as it goes along. You don't just be a teddy bear the whole time, but you want to always give them the benefit of the doubt and be kind along the way. All right, this leads me to my third and final tip this week, which is have a plan if boundaries are crossed. Okay, so this is so important, is that when you are changing the rules of engagement with your family dynamic, meaning that you are changing the interaction patterns, it is really important that you have a plan of attack when they cross your boundaries. We're all creatures of habit. If it's been decades that they have spoke about or talked to you in a certain way that you don't agree with, however, it's been decades that that's been acceptable language, and now they've agreed to stop that, the odds of them remembering are actually pretty low. The reality is they're going to cross your boundaries, and you have to have a plan of attack for that. Don't live in the fantasy or the optimism that they're always going to know exactly what to do, or that they're going to always know what to do with the new you. They're going to have to get used to the new you. They're going to have to form new language habits with you. And that's going to require you to have some tools in place to remind them of that boundary when they're going to cross that boundary again. So I always say that you need to have that plan of attack. You need to ask yourself, if and when they cross this boundary, how do I want to respond? What do I want to say? What is a loving way I can remind them of the agreement that we've made? What is a way that I can not shame them or get angry with them or blame them, but to course correct this behavior? Because I always say it's kind of like training a puppy. You can't just tell a puppy, don't pee in the house one time and expect the puppy not to do that. You got to constantly remind the dog that we pee outside, we pee outside, we pee outside, before the dog builds up the neural pathways to know that you go outside. Well, not to compare your family to dogs, but what I'm saying is that creating the habit is very similar. It needs constant reminding. You have to constantly remind them of the new you and the new engagements that you've agreed upon to set them up for success. So you need to know the plan of attack. So you need to write out a couple different ways of how you plan to respond when they cross your boundaries. All right, so let me end this section off by a quote, which is, "Just as we expect others to value our boundaries, it's equally important for us to respect the boundaries of others." You have to remember that boundaries are not walls, and they're made to be negotiated. You might ask for something, and they might have a counterpoint to whatever it is that you're asking. It's important that both parties learn to find middle ground, that we're not just drawing a line in the sand. For the most part, there are certain things that it's okay to have a no trespassing sign up. You have to be discerning of what that is. But a lot of times we become very rigid and very sharp in ways that, you know what, there's some room for differences there. Differences in personalities, differences in opinions, difference in beliefs, just differences in who you are. And when you can allow a little grace there, then you guys could set yourself up for success where both parties feel good about whatever the boundary is that was set. So hopefully this has helped in some way. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss a personal development video. We deliver them to your inbox each and every single week. And if you want to continue the conversation, then join me over at bonniekelly.me. That's where all the cool people hang out just like you. So if you're looking for like-minded, growth-minded, awesome people, that's where we are, is bonniekelly.me. All right, until next time, I'll see you then. Did you enjoy this week's video? I sure hope so. If you're ready to start your personal development journey right now, then click the link below. You can get 7 days free of my 21-day emotional detox program right now, and in 10 minutes or less, you can begin to declutter all of the mental and emotional toxicity that's invaded your mind. So if you're ready to take that journey, just click the link. No credit card required. It's my gift to you. Don't forget to subscribe or comment below. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, I'm Bonnie Kelly.